You're watching Beyond the Whistle, brought to you by NCTV.
Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Matt Schlegel here with Scotty Luntz for NCTV. It's Beyond the Whistle, Episode 6, Super Bowl 51 edition. Scotty, how's it going?
It's going well, Matt.
So we're a few days away from the big game, Patriots-Falcons, the AFC champions versus the NFC champions. We're going to do a quick breakdown of what happened in the conference championship where the Patriots beat the Steelers and the Falcons beat the Packers. In those two games, big picture, what did you see out of both teams?
You know, the Steelers didn't show up in that game, so credit to the Patriots defense. This has been a defense that has dominated over the second half of the season. Logan Ryan, what he's done for the Patriots is remarkable. Malcolm Butler shutting down Antonio Brown. Obviously, Le'Veon Bell was out, which is unfortunate for the Steelers, but credit to the New England Patriots. This is a top 10 defense in the NFL, and they proved it there.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a great point with that game, and then you look at the Atlanta-Green Bay game. Atlanta's offense was just overwhelming. Matt Ryan proved that I think he will be the NFL MVP. I argued that earlier in the year on this show, but now I think I got to agree. Matt Ryan will be the league's MVP and probably the Offensive Player of the Year as well. They've got so many weapons. They've got Devontae Freeman, Julio Jones. They can just really explode off the football. And their defense, we don't really know how good it is because they haven't really needed to play well recently. As the Falcons have been getting hot, they've been putting up 40-something points that the defense just needs to make sure the other team just doesn't put up 50. So with Matt Ryan running the offense, it's an electric offense, and there's a lot going on. So I think we're going to be in store for a good game, good defense versus a good offense. But that's where I think the Patriots are going to have the edge. So now we're going to go into some specific matchups, which we'll get to. First, I'm going to start with you. The running backs of New England versus the running backs of Atlanta. Who do you like and why?
Well, the Patriots have dual threat running back. Obviously, they have the goal line carrier, the first and second down back, can bully his way on third down, LeGarrette Blount. But Dion Lewis has come on the scene. We saw it last week. He has been an explosive back. As that being said, I think the Falcons have two number one running backs in Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Devontae Freeman, as we know, leading rusher last year in rushing yards. And I think the Falcons have the edge in this part of the game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think when it comes to rushing, I got to give the edge to Atlanta just because Devontae Freeman is really he's one of the few premier backs in the NFL this season. And while Blunt's numbers were technically better individually, something to note of the 18 rushing touchdowns by the New England running backs, all 18 were by Blount. Also worth noting, Dion Lewis did not play until Week 11 of this season, so the numbers might be skewed. He did have a very very good performance in the divisional round when he had 3 total touchdowns, one rushing, one receiving, and one on a 98-yard kickoff return. So I think that both teams have a lot of versatility in their backfields, and they like to use their backs differently. With Atlanta, they like to really feed Devontae Freeman the ball as much as they can, and Tevin Coleman, they like to get him out in space. New England, not a lot of their guys are big runners. Blount's a downhill guy, but he's been seeing the ball less and less as the other guys have been getting healthy. But he's a guy 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, 1st and goal from the 1. That kind of stuff is where we see him getting the ball. James White hardly ever runs the ball at all. He's just basically a receiver out of the backfield. And Dion Lewis is the best of both worlds where he can do both. He's great in space. He's very agile, but at the same time, he's not afraid to run a guy over even at his small size. Now we're going to go to the receivers. In the last 2 games, Julio and Julian, 2 very funny names in that regard. They've been both playing very well, and their numbers the last few weeks have been pretty similar. People look at Julio Jones as one of the best players in football, not just receiver. Julian Edelman is not quite appreciated in that regard. So talk to me about the receivers on both sides, because with Atlanta, with Sanu and Julio Jones and Taylor Gabriel, they seem to have more of the star power, whereas New England with guys like Edelman and Chris Hogan and Danny Amendola, Malcolm Mitchell, they're guys who necessarily you haven't really heard of, but they're pretty good. So talk to me about that matchup.
Well, Julian Edelman's the most underappreciated player in the NFL by my standards. This is a guy who stood up in a really tough situation, trying to fill in for Wes Welker, and I'd argue that he's done a better job in this Patriots team than Wes Welker did. And onto Julio Jones, toe injuries have been the problem this year. The last couple games of the season he missed. And I'll give the edge to the Patriots in this sense. Chris Hogan is hot, and when you're hot, you're hot.
Yeah, Chris Hogan last week played some of the best football I've seen out of a player in New England in the playoffs. Something funny about that, I'm talking about Julio Jones and how good of a player he is. I think Julio Jones is the best receiver in football. I think he's a notch above Antonio Brown and a notch above Odell Beckham. He had in that NFC Championship when he really went off, as people said, which he did. 9 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chris Hogan's numbers, AFC Championship, 9 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Identical stats. Hogan, who everybody's talking about as the former college lacrosse player, we've heard so much about that. He's really good because he's got great speed and he can go fire up the seams, draw safety coverages, and split through those coverages more importantly. He's Brady's favorite weapon to go over the top to. He's great on underneath routes and great on crossing patterns as well. Chris Hogan has turned into a very good player, but my guy Julian Edelman just simply does not get enough respect in this league. Over the last 4 years, when Wes Welker left New England, Julian Edelman has been one of the best receivers in the NFL as far as consistency and as far as in the clutch, in the fourth quarter. They don't win that Super Bowl in 2014 against Seattle without this guy. 9 catches, 100 yards, game-winning touchdown. He's an Iron Man. He's the grittiest player in the NFL. He fights for every single yard. He doesn't have bad days. He just needs to get more respect. When it comes to these two, while their numbers are pretty similar, I think obviously we can all agree Julio Jones is the better player just because what he can do over the top with his speed, with his size, with his ability to go up and catch jump balls. But Edelman fights for absolutely everything in this league, and it's kind of they're polar opposites physically and mentally. And Julio Jones was a first-round pick. Julian Edelman out of Alabama. Julian Edelman was a 7th round quarterback out of Kent State. So they're polar opposites and they play the game very differently, but they're both very good receivers. I'm going to give the edge to New England because of experience and because they're going up against a lesser defense. And on the note of defense, let's take a look at the defenses on both teams. You were very high on New England's defense before. Talk to me about these matchups and what each team's got to do.
I mean, what Logan Ryan has done, over 80 tackles in the season, is remarkable for this Patriots defense. Their secondary has showed up this year and has probably been the strong point of their season, of their defense. Missing Jamie Collins, who's arguably a top 10 linebacker in the NFL, is just remarkable that they're still this good. I think the Patriots defense is top 10 in the NFL, undoubtedly. And unfortunately for the Falcons, they've had injuries. Desmond Trufant, one of the best safeties in the NFL, went down, missed most of the season. Vic Beasley's been tearing it up, but I'm not sure if they have enough firepower to get to Tom Brady and force him to throw incompletion. So I'll give the edge to the Patriots.
Yeah, I think that what Atlanta has going for their defense is they're very young and very fast. And when hearing Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels talk to the media all through the week, that was the word you saw come up the most, which is fast. They're young. Keanu Neal or Deion Jones, they got these young players who are very good, and Vic Beasley obviously is probably their best player. They've got a lot of these guys who are young, 2 guys who are up for Defensive Rookie of the Year. They're fast. That is the best word to describe them. They make mistakes, but they get to the ball fast, and they can make plays when they need to make plays. I see this New England defense, though, like you talked about. Jamie Collins left right after the Buffalo game. New England was 7-1. Seattle comes to town the following week, first game without Jamie Collins after the bye, and New England's defense was just so exposed. And people in New England, listening to the Boston media, people are saying that this defense is in a lot of trouble, but it just took some time. Logan Ryan, like you said, has come into his own. Malcolm Butler is one of the best, I think, best cornerbacks in the NFL, one of them. And then they got guys just like Patrick Chung, who just does his job, makes tackles. Chris Long sets the edge. Rob Ninkovich does the same. Devin McCourty, fantastic safety back there. They've just got so much talent. And guys like Dante Hightower, it just goes on and on. They don't really have that one big superstar. It's not a flashy defense, and they just do what they're asked to do. The reason why I don't think they get as much respect as they're supposed to is they don't really play the style defense as a team like, say, Seattle does. We talk about their defense all the time. They fly to the ball. They cause turnovers. They tackle for loss. They do all this stuff, and they really take a game over. With New England, with Tom Brady on your side, all Belichick asks of his defense is just hold him to 3. Let him take a lot of time, have long, methodical drives. And they're able to do that, and it's really big just getting Brady the ball and whatnot, just shutting down offenses, not necessarily when it comes to yards, but when it comes to points, which you see New England is first in the NFL in scoring defense. So it's a very methodical, very well-coached defense without a lot of skill players, whereas Atlanta has a lot of good individual talent, but sometimes as a unit they can slip up. That being said, both teams are in the Super Bowl. Neither of them have a bad defense. It's just which is better. I'm going to give the edge to New England. So now we're just going to get into the thing we like to do, the 3 keys to victory. Scotty, you're going to give me the 3 keys Atlanta's got to do on Sunday to win this game.
Number 1, the second and third wide receivers for this Atlanta Falcons team have to step up. And I'm talking especially about Taylor Gabriel. Malcolm Butler will be on Mohamed Sanu, as we talked about earlier. And I don't expect Julio Jones to have a great game covered by Logan Ryan and with some help over the middle. I think Taylor Gabriel has exploded in the last half of the season, in the regular season. People are talking about him as this explosive receiver. He needs to come up big for this Falcons team. Second thing for the Falcons is to keep Matt Ryan upright. Matt Ryan This offensive line, Alex Mack, have done well this whole season, but this Patriots pass rush, I think, could get to him. And I do not think this Atlanta team stands a chance if Matt Ryan gets sacked 2 or 3 times this game. My last thing is that Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman get the ball in the passing game. This screen game could really destroy the Patriots, in my opinion. And if they can focus on Tevin Coleman, who's usually the rushing back, and then they can get it to Devontae Freeman a little bit, I think they can win this game.
Yeah, no, a lot of what you had to say I agree with. For New England, their 3 keys to victory, what I'm going to start with, the first thing they got to do, obviously everybody's been talking about it, they just got to try and contain Julio Jones. They can't let him blow the game open like he did last week against Green Bay. And that might mean he has 8 catches for 100 yards, but keep him out of the end zone. Don't give him that long 50-yard touchdown. So that's the first thing. And I think that we have it on. I think we're going to see Logan Ryan with safety help, Duron Harmon or Devin McCourty over the top, one of the two, and maybe occasionally Eric Rowe, just because Rowe and Ryan play the physical receivers better, whereas Butler can run with guys more so. Second thing they got to do, like I just talked about, what their defense is very good at, New England's defense that is just force Matt Ryan and the Falcons to have long, methodical drives. Don't let them march down the field in 5 plays and score a touchdown. Really make them work, make them run the clock off and do that kind of stuff. Give Brady time to game plan on the sidelines and hold them to 3 or maybe turn it over at the end of a drive, because that really frustrates an offense. When you have like an 11-play drive and you walk away with 3 points or you walk away with no points, that really can get to the offense, because then they feel like they need to do so much more, and that's really what New England's defense is good at. They call it bend, don't break defense, and that's a great way to describe it. Last thing New England needs to do, and I really believe if they are able to do this, they're going to win Super Bowl 51, and that's keep Tom Brady upright. Vic Beasley had 15.5 sacks this year, led the NFL, and everybody knows when you beat Tom Brady, you beat him by getting pressure on him. Atlanta runs a very similar defense because it's Dan Quinn, who's the head coach, who was the defensive coordinator for Seattle. They run a very similar defense with Seattle, a cover 3, a lot of relying a bit on their safeties, and I think New England has the firepower to take advantage of that and exploit that. And going against Seattle, looking at the 2014 Super Bowl, first 3 quarters, Brady struggled against that defense, because Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, all these guys, Bruce Irvin were all over him and getting to him in the backfield, and he didn't have time to throw the football. If they can, with Dante Scarnecchia, who's the new Patriots offensive line coach, he's been able to drop very good game plans. Nate Solder, Marcus Cannon, one of these guys locking up Vic Beasley. Give Brady time to throw. He's going to pick apart the zone. He's going to pick apart the Atlanta coverage, and he's going to find a different guy in every play. Mitchell, Hogan, Edelman, Amendola, it doesn't matter who. So I think that's the biggest key, and that's usually what we say about Tom Brady in the playoffs. Often, that's what it comes down to. So we've talked about it enough. Scotty, who do you like and why?
I'm going to take the Patriots in this one. I really want to take the Atlanta Falcons, and I really want to see Matt Ryan win a Super Bowl. But unfortunately, I think the Patriots are going to come out of this one. And one thing we didn't mention, Michael Floyd, I think he could be an X factor in this game. He can get out there. He's not going to be covered a bunch by this Falcons secondary. I think he can make some plays. We forget how explosive he was on the Arizona Cardinals, and I think he has an impact on this game. But overall, I think the Patriots will slow down this Falcons offense, and although the game will be a shootout, defenses win championships.
You have a score?
I'm going to say 24-20 Patriots.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to take New England too. I'm going to take them 31-17. That's usually a score I stick by. It's yeah, I think what we're going to see, I think it's going to be pretty close all the way through, and New England's going to pull ahead at the end, which is something that they tend to do. I mean, obviously, Super Bowl Sunday, it's a great day. We're looking forward to it. Thanks for tuning in. We'll recap the game and look forward to some other sports, NBA, hockey, that kind of good stuff. So, for once again, Matt Schlegel, Scotty Lawns for NCTV. Thank you.